there's genuine support. But first of all, I'd just like to talk about why people don't get the full support that they require. So it is exactly with what you've mentioned around the taboos that uh, go along with mental health insecurities. I think that even though globally people are struggling with mental health, I have seen how other countries have made strides in this area, and there is support that's given, proper support. With us in Zambia, we are still lacking in so many areas. And first of all, discrimination starts with families. I've heard today, even you, Cyprian, I think you've been able to hear how we are calling our brothers junkies. Just because someone is intoxicated, often called a junkie, a mad person. Uh, that's because we haven't really understood mental health aspects to it. Also, it is really where maybe people in the church would term it a spiritual problem, and so people shun away from seeking help because they feel that it's around um, it's around deliverance, and they don't want to have anything attached to that. Sometimes we hear how people call people who are struggling with mental health as mad, and here in Zambia we are very very quick to sending someone to Chinama, and when you just hear Chinama, it is related with mental illness. But these are some of the taboos that people associate mental health with because we haven't really understood what it is. Having um, reached out to people and supporting people at Sanity House, I see often how people just want to be listened to. There are people who haven't gone far off and they've been using alcohol or drugs. It's just because their surrounding hasn't given them a supportive um, tools, or haven't given them space to be able to pour out on what exactly they're feeling. And so I see this mental health issue crisis now as a plea for people to really want to get ahead. There's also another aspect I'd like to just highlight, that mental health issues have been popping up in different ways for men and women. For women, they stem from so many issues. One of it is postpartum depression. Also, for men, it could be money, it could be not feeling heard or feeling sufficient. So there's different uh, areas where people just don't get to be heard, and then it pops out, it comes out to be a mental health issue.
Trust me, the topic at hand is a very powerful one, and I've loved the passion you've used, to expand, to make the listener out there understand the importance of us having this discussion. This particular time, I want you to briefly, bring out some of the key factors that contribute, to a supportive environment for mental health and rehabilitation. You coming from Sanity House, briefly give us those factors.
I think one of the things I've just earlier mentioned is to really look out for what it is. Most people have emotional breakdowns. If, for example, there's been something that happened with this person, when they're writing an exam, a person has just lost a loved one, a person has just given birth. So this could be extremes of having great joy or very low moments, which I think as a country, let me bring it down to families. We don't really recognize what those things can do to a person's emotions, and so we just tend to neglect those things, and you find that people don't know how to separate their issues, their emotions, and so they lump them together. As time goes by, they fail to process what's been going on, and then they just have a breakdown, a mental breakdown. And so for me, I think that what we do at Sanity House, when we receive a case, whatever case we receive, we ensure that we understand what's going on with this person. So there's need to just really do an analysis and find out what could have gone wrong with this person from the time they were young. Could they have experienced something too big emotionally? Could they have experienced something too exciting? Because people tend to make decisions at different levels of their lives. So if there's someone out there who's thinking it can never happen to me, it's probably happening to you already. The times that you earned so much money, you got too excited, you might have made wrong decisions. And so we just want to find out emotionally where you are at. And so even in our therapy sessions, we do behavioral cognitive therapy, which just helps you to recognize how you process your emotions. When you're too happy, when you're too sad, what are you supposed to do? Are you still in the correct lane going to where you're supposed to go? And then we couple it with when it comes to addiction, how does addiction come in when a person is too excited or too low? And so those are the things people really need to look out for. How do you manage your emotions? Because that in itself helps people to really understand how they are made, how they respond to issues, which help they need to get at what point and at what time in their life.
I'm loving the passion you have in there. I'm just here to listen. Let's bring back, societal taboos. We'll address briefly on them. But I think at this particular time, it's important that also we dig deeper into them. At Sanity House, how have you addressed societal taboos? Please kindly outline some of the societal taboos.
One of it is really to just talk about it like this. I believe that if people have enough education around this, it begins to lessen. We encourage family therapy as well. Even if this thing would affect one person, we've seen how parents are affected in a way. If a child drops out of school, parents are affected. If a child is not behaving in the house, the children are affected. If the father is the one affected with mental health issues, children are affected. So it's a whole. We approach it holistically. And so what we do is to engage parents as well in the process of healing, but to really address the taboos. For us, it's the need to ask society to be more kind, because the way society receives mental health issues is that it's only for the failures, those who can deal with their emotions, those who are weak. And so you find that people don't really want to talk about it because they'll be deemed failures or they'll be deemed weak. So that is the first thing we are trying to address. And it doesn't mean that if someone has a breakdown, then they can't deal with an issue. Sometimes it's just because they failed to navigate from point A to point B and they just need guidance. We've seen students who've fallen out of school because they just can't cope with the pressure. We've seen doctors who are really struggling professionally, not because they don't have the brains, they're the ones who help people, but they've had to come to our rehab center to just get some time off and think about things separately, not as a whole, to help them just have some time to themselves and process better. And so, even for mothers, some of the mothers that we do have in our rehab center, for most of them, it's really just how they failed to navigate around the pressure of raising children. Can you imagine? Society has said raising a child is one A, B, C, D. If you fail to raise a child, then you are weak, or you were not trained well as a woman. But see, these are the things that make women tend maybe to alcohol use, to substance use, because society keeps calling them names.
No, trust me, this topic, like I mentioned earlier, is a very powerful one. And like you mentioned in your introduction, that it's a vast topic. But then, as much as we have a short period of time, it's important that we break down, we make it relatable to the listener out there to understand that such issues, such a topic is very important to discuss. I'm on a Having said that, I want to get your views. What role can institutions such as universities, workplaces, play in terms of creating a supportive environment? I briefly touched on how to address societal taboos, but also let's look at also creating a supportive environment. You mentioned there the example of a student,
Yeah.
a doctor. So, what basic ways can a safe environment be created from your experience?
Thank you. I like already the work you are doing because you are on the right track. This is a radio station based in the institution. I hope many people are taking note of what's happening on your radio station. But I do think that talking about these issues is helping a lot. But after talking about them, we need to take action. I believe that being a brother's keeper in institution is very important, a sister's keeper. So if someone you've seen is struggling with something, it means that they just can't navigate around a certain complex issue. Just because you manage to pull through it, it doesn't mean everyone can do it. We are raised differently. So building support structures, starting from your hostels and building it to management. I believe we have a mental health center here. Yes, I did meet some of them last time. But I think starting from there, just helping students to understand that the road to graduating or to wherever they want to go requires certain help that they need to get along the way. In homes, parents need to listen to their children's needs. Children are born different. You can't compare the firstborn to the secondborn. No, because the firstborn has been able to produce these results, then the lastborn should behave the same way. All that comparison, parents should be able to find how they can treat their children differently, but also listen to them. Institutions, we need a lot of support from institutions out there. There's need for coalition of institutions that are supporting the push towards mental health. We need to all come together and begin to support programs that help people to function well. So if you are an employer and you are just treating your employees anyhow, they don't have rest and they can't talk to you about the need to rest, then people do have breakdowns. I think that employers need to create a system where people can feel free to relax in as much as they are producing results. I was talking on LinkedIn over a post that was going around based off women asking for Mother's Day, and misusing it because they just want to rest. I think that there's an indication that people, it's not an issue of how many days you report. It's an issue of the results you produce. So you can be at work every day, but if you're not producing the results, then the employers miss out. Businesses equally. So there's need to just streamline and to mainstream, including programs, mental health programs within the workplace. Take your employers, your employees for an outing and let them speak out what works, what doesn't work.
And also continuously, talking about mental health awareness.
Yes,
in university setups.
Yes.
Colleges and university setups.
Yes, we really need those. Yeah.
Having said that, we're still addressing creating safe environments. We're still on that point. I want to get your views. How base can stigma be removed when it comes to rehabilitation centers? Because we see in many situations where many people fear not to visit rehabilitation centers. So how can that stigma be removed from your experience? Over to you.
Yeah. Wow, we probably have a long time to do that, but we are in the right direction. I think we've also struggled a little bit at Sanity House when parents come and they're asking, so what do you do here? Mostly it's because the rehab centers that are around the country, some of them don't have proper licensing. Some of them, people are locked up and are treated as mentally retarded people. but it's not all of them. So from what I've just explained, people might be failing to just navigate small issues or very big issues. Proper diagnosis of what people are going through is really important, but also there needs to have safe spaces or rehab centers where people can enjoy healing, also feel like they are still in a home environment and feel supported. At Sanity House, our criteria is to have our environment home-like. So when you come to our rehab centers, there are more home environments, so people can walk around. Of course, they're not allowed to go out because they might run, some of them. But we have a very home-like setup where they have their own, bedrooms, they have a kitchen, they do chores, they do devotion, and just to allow them feel they are still at home, even as they are healing. And then they get to have their mentorship sessions. They do to have activities to just help them improve mentally as well.
Let me bring back, the point you mentioned earlier. Was still on the creating a self environment. You mentioned earlier to say the role of change in church. We see also the influx of many churches which are not original, so to say, like a bit of weight. Be very careful, when it comes to talking about the church. But we see many situations whereby if someone requires a specialist help, that person will be seen like normal demons.
Yes.
So how best can you advise, the churches, when it comes to, serious issues which needs specialized person when it comes to mental health illness, and not only my prayers. Prayers are very important.
Very important, actually.
So, just briefly touch on that one so that the listener out there can understand that church is important, but when the case is very serious, they need to seek specialists. Over to you.
Yeah, I think that there's a person is made up of different it's made up of different needs, So there's the social aspect, spiritual aspect, and other areas that make up a psychological aspect. All of those things make up the well-being of a person. And so I think there's need to educate pastors on where they end. Not all things are spiritual. There's a place to pray. I think I've seen pastors with so much wisdom who know that this issue is not a spiritual issue but a psychological issue, and so this person will need to be referred. So right now, what I would want to recommend is churches to have well-vested referrals around them. So, for example, if they're failing to deal with one case, it's important to refer. I've seen churches which have health facilities within their churches. That's recognizing that health is another component and it's also tied to the spiritual life. I think that's very important to understand a whole person than just dealing with one area. So having referrals at Sanity House, we are open to having churches work with us where they feel they have people who they can't handle their issues. They've prayed. Perhaps this person just needs to be away from noise, and they just need to reflect properly, and so they can be sent to a rehab, which is one of the areas we are open to. I must emphasize that mental health issues need to be treated with so much wisdom. Yeah.
Trust me, it was very important to expand on that one, because watch out for face, church, then they just ended there. It was important also to the beauty of the show, the mental health therapy. It's a safe space whereby such topics, the approach is to be realistic and at the same time relatable, so that when you're giving solutions, to different topics which are discussed on this show, there's someone out there. And that way you help that person. Because that just here, that person has been helped. Okay, papa, okay, cool, but it's important also to seek professionals. Also briefly, looking at the time, I want you to tackle on the role of civil leaders, community leaders, also typical Panama traditional leaders also. What role can they play when it comes to spreading mental health awareness? What can it be? What do you-
For community leaders, I think for them is to look out on the community's well-being. I think a lot of times we've seen how when a leader is put in power, they often neglect these salient issues. For example, the mushrooming of bars in the areas, and the bar is just next to a school, and the community leader is found there drinking because at the end of the day they'll get the support, but really this is damaging. Our young people from the schools are hiding drugs in their pockets. They're going in class with drugs. It's very bad. But we need to reach a point where we understand that if it is not your child today, tomorrow it's yours. Whether you're a community leader or not, this will end up affecting your own family. So my call is to them, and just to really plea for stability in our communities. There are bars which are operating without licenses, from like as early as 6 hours and going all the way to midnight. People literally sleep there. This is bringing up so much productivity with the young people themselves, and so community leaders need to look out for this. It's not just about the votes, not just about you sitting in your office. When you're gone, there'll be so much that will need to be cleaned up, and so it's important to look out for that. Also, the traditional leaders, I think this is another big issue that needs to be discussed in the area of prescribing medication that's not supposed to be given, and calling people who are mad as mad, around issues around casting spells, when someone is not okay, and then there's accusations of who did what, witchcraft and all of that.
Business.
Yeah, and so that really needs to be dealt with. We have a lot of associations in Zambia that deal with the traditional healers, the Traditional Healers Association, that really needs to look at all these issues that are impacting society.
And finally, let's also tackle briefly on the role of social media. Because we've seen that also social media has negative and also positive implications. So I want to briefly, and 2 minutes, I want to get your views how social media can be used to create also a safe environment. Over to you.
Thank you so much. I think this topic of social media is like everywhere. It's like it's being talked about so much, but less is being done by individuals themselves. So I'll answer this question in 2 ways. There's the user, and then there's the people in charge of how social media is managed. For example, in our country, Zika is looking out for how people are using social media. So far, so good, I must say. We are seeing some improvements on people getting arrested if they're bullying and whatnot. But I want to also talk about the user aspect. So people often make a mistake to go to Facebook unknowingly. So if you go to Facebook unknowingly, you will land into trouble. I think that if you need information to help you, you can't put a problem you're going through for social media to answer you, because there you'll find people who are hating. And just to say that people who often misuse Facebook and insulting or putting up all kinds of nonsense there, for me, the first thing I see is that they're not okay. They are mentally not okay. They have got mental health issues. So a standard should be for you as a user of social media. What are you going to look for there? But also, if you as a person, you're going to post something, what are you trying to do? So there's so many areas that people need to just self introspect. What are you going to do on social media, and what are you going to take out on social media? My plea is to the celebrities, the people that follow, to look for solutions. Those people are already in the limelight, and my plea is that people should be able to see how they are damaging society. And like I said earlier, if you think that you are damaging other people, chances are that whatever storage of information is there is coming to harm your own family or your own children.
Powerful stuff.
Mm.
In part one. Trust me, such topics, are very important. Like I mentioned earlier, mental health therapy show. There's a safe space, and we have powerfully, discussed different areas. And just to sum up for those who are just joining us, we'll be looking at, creating a supportive environment for mental health and also rehabilitation and also addressing societal taboos. And we have looked at the importance of having open talks like this discussion we're having right now, that we need to be open and discuss mental health realistically. And also the role of the church is also an important aspect which has been brought out, that the church also needs to be mindful that if a case is serious, they shouldn't just treat it as normal demons. They should engage people qualified in that field of addressing mental illness, so that the people can get help. And also the stigma associated with rehabilitation centers. I think that it's about time that people remove that and just appreciate that rehabilitation centers are there for solutions which will benefit them. And also, at the end of the day, families and the community will benefit. But having said that, I think I want to get your views. Let's fight by. Let's fight. Your views when it comes to advice you can give to someone who's going through a mental health breakdown, because like you mentioned, there are many factors. They can be financial, can be relationship, and also want to not let that person go on social media to release their frustrations. So what advice can you give that person in under 2 minutes?
Under 2 minutes. My advice is that you are not the only person going through what you're going through. There's probably someone who's going through exactly what you're going through, and chances are that they also got help. Secondly, seek spaces which are safe for you to get help. And I think that people are afraid to open up because previously maybe they opened up to wrong people and the information ended up in wrong hands. And so nowadays there's places you can go to where you can actually get help. Online, ensure that if it is online, you are going to people who are credible enough to give you the information that you need. Please don't share openly what you're going through. Don't post on social media, because then that will harm you even more. When you just put your problems there are all kinds of people there who you're sharing your information to. Even if you're going to be a hidden identity, I'm sure you go back to it. So please don't do that, and seek professional help. If you can, please do pray about it, and know that if you have identified an issue, then there's certainly a place where you can get help. Identifying an issue, knowing that you're not okay, is the first step to you getting better.
Just to add on to that, also, it's important also for institutions, such as universities, colleges, to also continuously promote mental health awareness. Have talks.
Yes.
If possible, adding it to the curriculum, so that students, are given that information to help them to avoid situations whereby students can end up, committing suicide due to maybe a failure, academic failure, and also workplaces to address burnouts. So situations we need to create a safe space, and also to address mental health breakdowns, so to say. Having said that, and also to add on, just to add on, also schools, primary to secondary, also they should also include mental health awareness programs continuously, as they prepare them in society, going to university or colleges. They already have that mindset to say, okay, challenges which I'm going to face, I'm going to address them or solve them in this way, starting from there is also important also. Having said that, today's topic has been a very powerful one, and in part one, if we brief. Having said that, today's topic we were looking at, creating a supportive environment, for mental health and rehabilitation, and also addressing societal taboos. And today in the studio, I had a special guest from Sanity House. What Tandalida? Veronica, kitundu kyashu okutira wagenda mala kiranda isali omuyemulaland.
Before you even close, let me just share that we've had students from here who've been given time out of university to come into our rehab, just take some time off, and they're doing really well. We are so grateful to UNZA for giving us that opportunity to have to speak to your students in our rehab.
And that's the beauty of the mental health therapy. I don't know where so what could take? So Malupande, we appreciate your presence, and looking forward, to having you back on the show, and also just to encourage you, to continue doing the work you do, because I understand that societal taboos affects the work you do. Just wishing you the very best.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to having you, and shout out to the Sanity House.
Shout out.
What is again?
Thank you for the opportunity.
And as usual, this show is end on this point. To that person who's been thinking about suicide, don't drink that poison. Don't harm yourself. Whatever you're going through right now can seem like it's the end.
That's right.
But go through that journey, and as they say, trust the process. But I'll tell you, trust yourself. That one day you're going to come out of that path in life. And then once you come out of that path, your pain is going to motivate other people out there to say that,
that's right.
I can help other people come out of that and also be successful at the end of the day. So don't kill yourself, don't drink that poison, don't harm yourself. This has been the mental health therapy, and I've been your host, Junior, wishing you a very blessed